The girl moved into my house 2 weeks after my wife disappeared.
That sentence sounds worse when you hear it out loud.
Maybe it should. The terrifying part is how reasonable it felt at the time. Like rearranging furniture after a storm. Uncomfortable, but necessary. People trusted me because I worked with children. That's important to understand first. Schools create a specific kind of trust. Parents hand you their children every morning without really knowing who you are. They assume structure means safety. Whistles around your neck, attendance sheets, school assemblies, sports carnivals. All those ordinary things make people lower their guard. I taught physical education for nearly 20 years. Small coastal town, sunburnt football fields, concrete locker rooms that smelled like chlorine and damp towels. People knew me there. Not deeply, but enough to wave at supermarkets and trust me around their sons and daughters. I understood very early that charm is mostly consistency. Smile enough times, remember enough birthdays, show concern of the right moments. Eventually, people stop observing you critically. You become familiar, and familiar people are rarely questioned. My wife deserved better than the life I gave her. That's probably the closest thing to honesty I can offer now. She was quiet, careful, the type of person who apologized when other people stepped on her foot. She built routines around everyone else's comfort, packed lunches at 6 in the morning, ironed uniforms, birthday cakes shaped like cartoon animals. The house only functioned because she moved through it, constantly fixing small disasters before anyone noticed them. I don't think I appreciated silence properly until she vanished from it. The student was 16 when I started noticing her. That detail matters too. People prefer predators to look obvious. Cruel eyes, violent tempers, something visibly damaged. But most dangerous adults learn how to appear safe first. She stayed late after practice sometimes, asked questions about training schedules, nutrition, future competitions, ordinary conversations. That's how boundaries disappear. Not suddenly, gradually. One extra conversation after class. One ride home because it was raining. One private joke nobody else hears. And eventually, the inappropriate starts feeling personal instead. Teachers aren't supposed to have favorites. But schools quietly run on favoritism. Athletes get attention. Talented students get protection. Popular teachers get excuses. Administrators notice things before they admitted noticing them. Long conversations in empty gymnasiums. Her sitting too close to my desk. The way she looked at me during assemblies. But nobody wanted conflict, especially not with someone parents liked. That's the ugly truth about institutions. They protect reputations before people. My wife knew before I admitted anything. Women usually know first. Not because men are clever, because routines change. I stopped eating dinner properly, started staying at school later, spent entire evenings staring through television programs I couldn't remember afterward. She asked me once if I was unhappy. I remember saying, "Just stressed," without even looking up from the newspaper. That sentence probably damaged her more than shouting would have. Because calm dishonesty feels strangely permanent. The student started spending time at our house gradually. Homework first, then dinners, then weekends helping with our children. I framed it as generosity, mentorship, support for a troubled teenager. That's another thing manipulation does well. It disguises selfishness as kindness. My wife tried to normalize it because she was desperate to save the marriage. People can endure horrifying situations if they believe endurance might repair something. There were nights all three of us sat in the same living room, pretending reality hadn't already collapsed. Television humming quietly, children asleep upstairs. Nobody saying what everyone understood. I started imagining life without my wife months before she disappeared. That's the part investigators became obsessed with later. Not anger, not violence, premeditation. But thoughts are difficult things to prosecute. People imagine murderous thinking as dramatic. It usually isn't. Sometimes it's administrative, financial calculations, custody concerns, property ownership. The practical inconveniences of divorce started irritating me more than morality itself. The night she vanished was painfully ordinary. That's what stayed with me afterward. Not chaos, routine. The dishwasher running in the kitchen, rain tapping against the back windows. Our youngest daughter asleep with cartoons still flickering quietly upstairs. I remember my wife folding laundry at the dining table. Small domestic movements. Comfortable movements. The kind people stop appreciating because they assume they'll happen forever. I'm not going to describe what happened next. Violence is less important than decision. People focus too much on physical acts. The real horror is quieter than that. It's the moment a person chooses themselves over another human being completely, without hesitation, without mercy, without believing they'll ever truly be caught. I waited weeks before reporting her missing. That sounds suspicious now. At the time, it sounded strategic. I told people she needed space, that she'd been emotionally unstable, that she might have joined some spiritual retreat group outside the city. The lies worked because they were exhausting to verify. Most people don't investigate hard when explanations feel emotionally uncomfortable. And besides, I was still coaching children every afternoon, still attending staff meetings, still smiling at parents near school gates. Routine protects predators better than innocence ever could. The student moved in officially not long afterward. She wore my wife's sweaters sometimes, used her coffee mugs, slept in the same bedroom where my daughters still expected their mother to return. Children adapt to horror disturbingly fast when adults present it calmly enough. That realization still makes me sick sometimes. I'd answer questions with reassuring voices.
Mom just needs time. She loves you very much. Meanwhile, her side of the closet was already empty. Years passed that way. Then decades. Investigations reopened occasionally. Journalists called. Old witnesses remembered new details. But time protects guilty people surprisingly well. Memories fade. Evidence disappears. Entire communities convince themselves unresolved things are better left unresolved. I remarried eventually, moved towns, got older. The public version of my life stabilized again on the surface. But underneath it, there was always waiting. The podcast changed everything. Funny, isn't it? 40 years of silence, damaged by headphones and internet downloads. Suddenly, strangers were discussing my life during morning commutes. Old classmates started speaking publicly. Former students remembered rumors. Retired detectives revisited files nobody had touched in years. The terrifying thing about public attention
is its patience. It doesn't get tired the way individual investigators do. Questions kept multiplying, and eventually, the answers I rehearsed for decades started sounding rehearsed even to me. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. Not physically, emotionally. People stared at me differently there. Not with anger, with recognition. Like they were finally seeing the shape hidden beneath the performance. Former students testified. Former colleagues, too. And for the first time in my life, my charm had stopped functioning as currency. Do you know what frightened me most during sentencing? Not prison. Not dying there. The realization that my wife had probably understood exactly who I was long before anyone else did. That maybe every quiet dinner near the end, every exhausted conversation, every sleepless night beside me, she already knew she was living with someone hollow. People still ask where her body is. I understand why. Families need endings, something physical to bury, some final location for grief to settle properly. But absence can last longer than evidence, longer than marriages, longer than careers, longer than the version of yourself you spent decades pretending to be. I used to believe being respected meant being good, that if enough people admired you, your private decisions somehow mattered less. But respectability is just presentation. A uniform people mistake for morality. And eventually, every performance ends. Even the convincing ones.